All right, so for those of you who are here with me for the third act of the day, we're gonna just call this an act of the day, right? Welcome to everybody. It's just about 10 minutes to 2. The sun is shining in really brightly, so if there's a glare, excuse me. So I want to welcome you here. Thought I come on. I always like to come on a little bit early, just so give us all a chance to get to know each other. If you are watching from the Facebook Live, let me know that you're here just by saying hi, hit some hearts, whatever it is you want to do. Quick intro, just in case you're not sure who I am, Reverend Joanne Angel Barry Cologne. I am the presenter of the Cosmic Evolution Summit, which is what you're on, what you're watching right now. I'm also the founder of Holistic Fitness and Why. And I'm bringing to the virtual stage 6 amazing speakers. If you've been following up until this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, you already had an opportunity to listen to 2 of the speakers. We're moving into our third speaker as of 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm super excited to share her shortly with you. And just getting some insight from spirit to see what it is I want to share with you for today. Card of the day before was based on the number 44. The word was powerful. I am hearing to share another card. So let's see what word shows up for this broadcast. Ah, it's the yellow theme. It seems to be today. Your solar plex energy. This one's about success. Let me get there. Success. And we may all have a different vibration with that word. I remember going back several years ago when I first started my TV show. There was a gentleman who I met, did a reading with, and the word success triggered him. Was not a good word for him, even though he's very successful. At least from my point of view, he's very successful. And so for you, if that word success triggers something for you and you don't like that word, come up with a different word that means the same thing. Okay, for me, I love the word success because it reminds me of taking time out to reflect on all that I have accomplished in my lifetime. And sometimes we need to get in a habit of giving ourselves our own recognition, giving ourselves our own applause as opposed to expecting it from the outside. Remember, if you cannot give yourself your own recognition, you may have a challenging time receiving recognition from somebody else. So get in the habit. The yellow energy is about trusting the journey you are on. The first 2 speakers we had come in this morning, first one was all about your inner dragon. Second one was about our astrology. So trusting this journey that you are on and trusting that if you are here watching live or you're here in the Zoom room, that you're exactly where you need to be. And the number 8, oh, so perfectly aligned with the energy of the year. 2024, when we talk about and translate that, number 8 is about your karmic reset. It's about the abundance, it's about balance, it's about harmony. It's also about worthy, feeling worthy enough to be seen, be heard, and to make space in your life. And I think that's a really great gateway into the conversation that we're going to have today. Make space in your life. And when I use the word make space, it's about the space in regards to the clutter around you and also the space in your head. Because if you're holding on to all the things from your past, the shouldas, couldas, wouldas, what ifs, that takes up space. So how about just for today, as they say in Reiki, let go of those so you can make space for the wisdom, the magic, the resilience, the excitement, the joy that you so deserve in this lifetime. So we're just about 5 minutes before we get into the meat of the conversation for today. And what I'm going to do, Tammy, if you are on, if you could just turn on your screen so this way I can bring you in. Woman of the hour. And you can unmute yourself as well.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I am I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be here. How are you all doing?
I am doing well, having a super duper day. I feel like I'm in Walt Disney. You hear that expression that they say in Disneyland? It's a superty duperty day. I forget what character talks about that. Don't ask me why that showed up anyway. Anyway, so what I'm going to take a moment to do is I'm going to read a little bit about Tammi and who she is based on her bio. Tammi and I have known each other for quite some time, and I know Tammi from the other side in reference to all that she does, and I get to share her with you. So here we go. Tammi Moses is the founder and chief encouragement officer of the Hoarding Solution. Her work includes consulting, education, and hosting the Hoarding Solution podcast. Tammi brings a unique perspective to hoarding through her experience growing up in a hoarding home. She understands that hoarding isn't as simple as just clean everything up. Hoarding issues create constant chaos and conflict among family members. Using her experience, Tammi founded the Hoarding Solution to show people they are not alone in their struggle. Her mission is to change the hoarding industry by providing support, resources, encouragement to those affected by hoarding. The one thing I have learned by connecting with Tammi in the process of hoarding, in theory, we all have hoarding issues. I said this earlier today in the first conversation that if you were to actually see my kitchen table in this very moment, all the clutter that sits here. And Tammi has heard this millions of times from me that you would think by now my table would not look this way. However, this is my natural mess that I sit in just to like know where everything is. There are some things on my table that may not necessarily be here, but just recognizing that we all have a tendency of holding on to things. And there's reasons for it. And in today's topic that Tammi will be sharing with us, I have to go back and find a title of it. Tammi, do you remember your title? Tammy's looking for it too.
You would think that I would, but it's about detaching to
have,
create space for connections.
yes, I have it right here. Just as you were saying it, it showed up. Detachment brings clarity, letting go to make connections. So, Tammi, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we're going to dive in to get to know more about what Tammi does and why she does what she does. So, right off the bat, let's start off with the question on why is it so important to consider the aspect of detachment?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm glad to be here today and sharing. And I've considered this detachment piece a lot for myself, but also in how we deal with our things and how I've worked with clients, helping them understand this valuable aspect of things. And detachment is basically the state of being objective or aloof. And when I think about that, I think also possibly non-judgmental. So non-judgmental of ourselves. So like you were sharing, Joanne, the clutter on your table, right? Well, I have a few piles in front of me on my other desk because most of us are managing multiple things in our lives. And while I'm not a big fan of piles, it helps me separate out, hey, I'm working on this for me, I'm working on this for a client, I'm working on this for my boyfriend or my mother or our farm, whatever. Like it helps me to compartmentalize. But detaching allows us to decrease our emotional response to things. I think it allows us to have a more level playing field when we're dealing with things, when we can step back just a little bit and detach from that moment, that argument, that discussion. And doing so allows us to bring more calm and peace into our personal lives. And I think that impacts the quality of our time that we spend with ourselves and with others. it also allows us to lower our stress and our blood pressure, because if you're constantly in this mode of super attachment to whatever's happening in life, it really can increase your stress and your blood pressure, and that alone can lead to other medical issues for you. And it also can reduce that interpersonal strife that you might have, and allows you to take a breath, take a moment, maybe say, oh, I didn't think of it that way, or I didn't understand how this was impacting you. Let me pause for a minute and look at this a little differently. And it applies in many aspects of our lives, to include our mental and physical state.
I love that. And I myself have never really thought of the concept of detachment when it comes to the importance of our clutter. So I love that you brought that up as the first topic. Now, the next question I have is, how do I convince myself that I am worthy of a space that I want to spend time in?
A lot of it has to do with your mindset and of what you are allowed um, to feel about yourself. And I have found a lot of people don't personally feel like they deserve good things, or good experiences, or a healthy living environment. And part of determining what you will allow in your life is determining your sense of value. And it was a hard concept for me to accept when I had a discussion many years ago with a therapist who explained to me that you are inherently worthy and valuable, period, no qualifiers. And it took me quite some time and some journaling and some thinking and embracing this idea that I was valuable. And if you don't think you're valuable, you tolerate all kinds of things, including a space that is unhealthy for you, or a trip hazard, or it's frustrating for you to get up in the morning because the sink is full of dishes. That clearly is one of my pet peeves. Not saying I don't do it, but I prefer to wake up and not have that. I want to be able to make that coffee easily. And I'm worthy of ease. I'm worthy of that. We all are. And so it is a shift of your mindset into what you feel you're worthy of. Do you walk around with shoes that have holes? Do you walk around with socks that slip down and don't fall because you don't feel like you should spend that $10 for you to have a decent pair of socks? What are you tolerating in your home that you really would prefer not to tolerate, but because maybe you're a people pleaser? I've been done that. Maybe you don't want to rock the boat. Maybe it's not something you feel like you need to be discussing right now. Maybe there's more important things going on. So it is shifting your mindset into the fact that you are valuable, that you are worthy, and that having a clean floor that isn't sticky is maybe something you're worthy of. I see it with showering. A lot of people that have clutter, extreme clutter issues, there's a lot of depression and anxiety underlying in those often for people, which can lead to not showering, to not taking care of yourself in some ways, which are really important. And it's that whole, well, I don't think I'm worthy of that today. And you totally are worthy of that. You're worthy of finding your book that you like to read. You're worthy of a clear table to sit down at. Um, and then for me, this goes into some extreme self-care where you might have to do a little more than someone else in order for you to feel like you're valuable and worthy. I have found it helpful to focus on what you want. How do you want to feel? What do you want to have? How do you want to be? Who do you want in your life? And it all comes back to feeling like and believing that you are worthy of all these things. You're worthy of friends coming over. You're worthy of enjoying your life, no matter what your past is or has been.
Yes, I do. I appreciate that, especially on the worthy aspects of things. Now, again, with Tammy and I, we do a lot of work off screen together. And the concept of the worthy part and taking that time to clear your space, decluttering your space. So it it opens up the opportunity that when you do let go of something, and it could just be like going into your one drawer in your bedroom and emptying it out. Because by you emptying that one drawer, that one space, no matter how small or big it is, of course, the bigger the stuff is that you declutter, the bigger the impact of that declutter is going to make for us. So one thing I always encourage folks to do, that when they are in that process of cleaning up and decluttering, is to pay attention to what's going on around you after you make that big purge out, because there's going to be some changes, some spiritual changes that do occur when we do clean things up. And sometimes, again, just like Tammy says, sometimes people don't feel worthy enough of bringing in that newness, and or not recognizing that the very thing that they feel protecting them from the outside world. So I love that. I love that whole concept of just worthiness. Next question that I do have: how do you personally go through the process?
I want to mention something about the protection aspect, which is what a lot of people feel like they are protecting themselves by a wall, or I look at it kind of like a blanket of a security blanket that, and that is the reason people have some of those external things, because it helps them feel safe, even though someone else might look at that. I, for example, would feel the exact opposite of all that. I would feel very unsafe with that level of clutter. But personally, I look at what emotion am I feeling right now? Am I stressed? Am I angry? Am I overwhelmed? A couple days ago, I'm canning tomatoes and I had to jockey a bunch of stuff around to include all this extra stuff in the kitchen. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed because the amount of stuff that is taking up space right now in my space. And I was able to kind of come back down and say, okay, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so what do I need to do to address that? And so then I was able to go and straighten out the stuff that was cattywampus. I packed the jars correctly, and that helped me bring down some stress. And so I really look at how am I feeling and what is this triggering me? Because the alternative, which I've done before and it's not very effective, is snap at the other person that's near me. And why? They didn't create this. Like, we're jointly creating this and jointly trying to solve a problem, but it wouldn't move anything forward if I let my overwhelm become an argument or a stressful factor for us. And as far as looking at your items and the things that are in your space, I look at, do I need this? Do I want it? Have I used it recently? Am I going to use it in an upcoming event? Um, I know some people adhere to this idea that if you haven't used it in a year or 6 months, you should get rid of it. Well, I moved 3 years ago. I've only been in a different house, long process there with building and property prep and all that, but I'm just now unpacking some things. But I am still using that rule of, do I need it? Do I want it? Can I use it? Is this something I even want in my house? And then I constantly have a bag or a box of things that I'm getting rid of. Now, sometimes I might have someone in mind that mentioned they needed it. Other times I'm just like, I don't care. I just want it out of my space. It doesn't matter. But having a spot where you can put the things you don't know need anymore is really valuable, because a lot of times things stay in our space because we don't know where to put them, or how to direct them. And I find it very helpful if I just know, hey, I have a spot where I can put this sweater or this cup or this whatever that I don't need or want anymore. And how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel in my space? How do I want people to feel that uh, come in to my home? How do I want to present? And how do I want to wake up Sunday morning in my pajamas, right? Do I want to look at a bunch of piles, or do I want to be able to pour my cup of coffee and sit on my couch and not be stressed out about the things that are around me? The flip side of that is people who are very comforted by clutter. And oftentimes we attract the opposites. So that can create, sorry, I'm getting a lot of glare here. That can create a lot of friction. So I try to keep in mind, how is it I want to operate in this space, and how do I want to uh, behave moving forward. And that helped me a lot when I was moving as well, where my mantra was, I don't want to look at this again. I don't want to have to make a decision later because I don't want to make one now. By the way, not making a decision is still a decision. And that haunts me sometimes, when you think I won't take action, but really that isn't, the inaction is technically an action itself by whatever it is you're choosing not to do. So it's taking me a while, given my own history and background, to get to the place where I feel okay with discarding it. I feel okay with saying, it's been a dish towel, and then it was a dog crate towel, and now it sopped up some oil in the barn or the garage, and now it's going in the trash. Like, it's gone through its life cycle. And I found, particularly if you have low insight into your situation, which is very common, specifically in hoarding, that you have a very hard time discarding that item, even though it's lived its life and its purpose has been fulfilled. And there should be no guilt about the fact that you're getting rid of this thing. Because if you look at it also, would you want that in your washing machine? No, of course not. So just kind of learning how to release things when they have either served their purpose for you or lived their life. It's okay. Let it go.
I love that. Now, now, a big part of your title to your topic is about the detachment and also about the connection. So obviously, when we talk about hoarding, sometimes people collect things to the excessiveness, where it may be the very they do this so this way here it prevents people from wanting to connect with them, to keep them out. Can you talk a little bit on that?
So a lot of times I have found things are a trauma response. Excessive things are a trauma response. Sorry, I feel like I'm very Halloween here with this light coming in. But it can create a lot of friction in your relationships. And if you're a person who enjoys people, you may have been hurt in some way, and your response to that pain is to bring too many things in. And again, it comes back to that protective layer, at keeping people at bay, because people hurt you, stuff doesn't. That's a mindset. And if you have someone in your life that you want to have over and you want to entertain, and all of a sudden something has happened where you can't anymore, you won't let someone in your door. You won't invite them in. You'll have them drop you off a block from your house so they don't see where you live. And there's like this level of secrecy that creeps in. And all of a sudden you're alone because of the space that you're in. And that's very isolating for people. And it can create lots of friction in your relationships. Let's say you have a partner or a roommate and you don't mind the mess as much, but it drives them bananas. So you have a lot of conflict in your home because of stuff in there. And it makes it very uncomfortable to live. And even if you're a person who doesn't see the mess as clearly as someone else, there's still a low level stress there. And often people may know something is amiss in their space, but they may not realize how much it's impacting their relationships. And so, an example I have is older folks who say, I want to have my grandkids over. And the parent of those kids says, no, I can't have my kids over there because there's no open floor for them to play on. If they pull on a box, it'll fall down. Maybe in extreme cases, there's animals going where they shouldn't. And so you are now limiting the very space that would be inviting if you allowed some kind of order in your space. A lot of people can't make that connection, that the reason your connections with your family or your friends or your loved ones are suffering is that you can't come in, you can't invite them in and they can't comfortably be there. And that really impacts lots of relationships. So if you can address it, you can reestablish those connections sometimes. You have an opportunity to be less isolated. You have a lot of work to do sometimes if your mindset is that this is okay and this is status quo and it's too much for me to handle, so I'm just going to ignore it. So if you do that, that doesn't improve your situation. And later, as you age, we age, trip hazards become a big issue. Fall risk is a big issue. And sometimes we're forced to have connections we didn't want, possibly with protective services or law enforcement, because people are concerned about us and we won't let anyone help. So sometimes new connections are forced. And when I've worked with clients, it's right now you can make a decision. Right now, this is up to you. And I highly recommend doing it when it's up to you so that you aren't forced into something you don't want. And
I like to add something to that as in the Facebook Live, one of our speakers, the Crystal Queen, Krista, says it's not hoarding if it's crystals. And yes, it's quite interesting because as a crystal lover myself, that is true if it is a crystal. However, and I'm sure once Crystal and I come together in a little while, the concept of if you have crystals but you're not taking care of your crystals, it could become a hoarding situation as well. So just want to put that out there.
and books, I have a lot of books, and people say if they're books, it's not hoarding. Um,
Yes.
and really, a lot of times it is about a collection. It's something you enjoy, it's something you like. And the difference mainly is, as you mentioned, you're probably maintaining your crystals, you're cleaning them, you might have a shelf for them, and they aren't scattered all over your kitchen floor, or filling up your bathtub or things like that, where you're still able to use your space as it's intended. And some people will say, even if it's organized, it can be hoarding. And I've seen both sides where it is organized, but still a lot. And a lot of times, I think it's just a lot of things in a space. It's not necessarily that you can't use the space, but sometimes it's just too much. If you've ever seen like soda, people like collect everything Coke on the planet, right? So their entire place is just coated with that. But that doesn't mean they're not able to use their kitchen and their bathroom and all that stuff. So it really is a perspective um, shift sometimes.
Yes,
And
yes.
but it really is about how are you operating in your space and how is it impacting the people in your life. And if it's having a negative impact, it's really something to consider what you could do differently.
Yeah. And I love the next question that I'm about to ask you. And the question is, what are some ways to preserve memories and let this stuff go anyway?
So I have a number of things, and I've done this myself and learning about it, doing it more with things that I've inherited. But I've kind of a funny thing that happened a few years ago. I was at a workshop for reducing clutter for folks that are older, and there were some older folks who were extremely upset that their kids and grandkids didn't want their large furniture, the china hutches and the armoires and all that. And um, they were very upset. They were hurt that their kids said no, no, mom and dad, I don't have room for that. And I was surprised by the level of pain that brought the older people who were like, hey, but we worked really hard for this, or this came from, the old country, or it was great grandma's, or something like that. And that just made me really realize that we are attached to our things. And it's harder for older folks to, if you're downsizing or selling, like you wanted someone to take that who would care for it. So a lot of times we don't have the space for it. A lot of times, we're full. And so one thing that helps people is to take photographs of it. Take the serial number, take the maker photos, take the photo of the things, and then write down your memories about that. This was great grandpa's. It was made, by Uncle John, whatever it is, and really capture that and keep that with your photographs. And something else that helps people is like, say you're selling that or you are donating it, you could include a little note with that, like this is who made it and this is my memory attached to it. And it sometimes can ease that transition knowing you're sharing your story with someone else who might cherish it as much as you did. And I really like the photo ID idea. In fact, I had a conversation this morning with someone where I was like, well, I understand that the other person wants this item. So um, it's kind of a push pull situation around an inheritance, but it's like one of you could have a photo of it and the other person could have the actual item if it's that important, which is also peace of mind. What's your peace of mind worth in these situations? And I also like the idea of having other people share their memories with you of that item or of that journey that you were on when you picked up the item, that type of thing. And just kind of being able to talk about it, kind of like our loved ones that are gone, like we still want to talk about them, right? We still want to have them be part of the conversation sometimes. And I think the same thing can apply to our things that um we want to have someone else talk about that kitchen table or that, it could be anything, right? It could be a lawnmower. It could be
It
the
definitely can.
saddle. It could be anything that
Mhm.
has meaning to you. So I really like the idea of having a photo and some written words about the things that you have. And um, I recently inherited a big armoire thing from my aunt, and it used to be in her guest room that I stayed in when I was younger. So there is that big connection there. And someday it's pretty big. Like, I don't know if I'd move it again, right? Like, I think I might just be like, this comes in the house. But it was really important for her for me to have it. And which timing comes in there too, because a couple years ago, I don't know where I would have put it given the transition I was in at the time. But the timing was right where I was able to say, okay, yeah, let's see if I can make this work. So um, just find a way that's meaningful for you. And these days, it's not that hard to snap a couple photos. And the other thing is you could upload them into something where other people could access it, like a family drive or something like that, where other people, maybe 2 generations from now, someone's going to be a furniture maker and they're going to look at that and go, hey, I'm going to recreate this thing that, so there's some legacy there as well.
Yes, I love that. Now, recently, which Tammy had an opportunity to witness from me, I did, well, I've done several huge declutterers from my storefront space to my old apartment to where I'm living now, and then more importantly, help declutter my dad's basement. And not so much about my stuff that I decluttered from my business and from my apartment, but more so my dad's basement and his garage, decluttering his space. And through what I've learned with working with Tammy is that, yes, I can easily go to his space, bring a big old hefty duty garbage bag, and just start throwing things out because I do not have any emotional attachments to what's in his space. However, that's not actually being helpful to my dad because there's emotional attachment that he had. So one of the things I learned through that process is that while I was helping him, I would literally say we created 3 piles: keeping, throwing away, and possible donation. And the possible donation was the word possible because it was probably something that just really needed to be thrown away. Giving my dad the idea of he's going to get to choose. Does he want to donate this or is it really going to the garbage? And that's something I learned through Tammy in regards to listening to her topics and really getting that understanding. Because it is easy for us to go to someone else's home and say, oh, we have to clear this out. Reality of it all is we have to pay attention to what the emotional connection is to why they may have, whether it's a hoarding situation or just a lot of stuff of something, and why they have it there. And that was like an eye opener for me in regards to the process of letting things go. So leading into the next
And that's
question, go ahead.
and that's so important to recognize for our loved ones and for other people and for ourselves. Like, there is this emotional connection there, and it's important to honor that. And I will also say, on the other flip side of that, it's very darn frustrating when something needs to happen and it can be done quicker than um it's taking you, but you have to kind of slow that down in general, to honor that person if you can. But even if they aren't present, you can still make an effort to do the same thing. Keep, donate, possible discard, possible donate, but and still honoring them. That's not saying they won't get angry, because I could have a whole nother story about that. But that doesn't mean you can't keep them in mind when you're going through it. And I would also say it's also a lot more difficult sometimes if you're the kid trying to help your parent, because there's a lot of emotional connection there already. And depending on your relationship, it might make it more challenging. So it's something to keep in mind that you aren't necessarily responsible, even though um, it may feel that way to you.
Very true. Very true. And for me, again, having the understanding that when you're decluttering your own stuff and then trying to help somebody declutter their stuff and witnessing it for myself, when I open the space up and gave grace to my dad in regards to what we were doing, it was just such an easier process than me saying to him, well, this is going in the garbage and that's going in the garbage and this, there was so much resistance. So by the time my third week of going back and forth, I finally took on this new approach on this will be a lot easier, a lot more fun, and the connection between him and I will be easier, even though again the connection with him and I was always easy. It's just that here I am coming into his home wanting to say, oh no, we got to get rid of this, we got to get rid of that, and wasn't the best approach because he had his guard up on like, no, he wants to keep everything. And then suddenly out of the blue was like, came over to clean and help him clean. He's like, we're throwing this away, we're throwing this away. And I'm like, oh my God, like where does this man come from that all of a sudden he wants to throw everything away? And I'm like, okay, Dad, let's take a minute, slow down, and let's take a look at what we are actually going to throw out because you don't want to throw out anything that you really want just because now you're in this energy of wanting to get rid of everything. So, with that being said, and this is something that I'm really interested in regard to how do you maintain the newfound space that you can continue to enjoy it?
So one of the things, and I'm very guilty of this, is putting the stuff back when you're done with it, whatever it is, whether it's the your book, your measuring cup, your tools, and just put it back when you're done. And it also allows you to find it the next time you need it, hopefully. Of everyone's, I think, heard the joke where the reason you can't find it is because you put it back where it belongs. And so um, you can cut down on that a little bit if you actually do put it where it belongs and um, find it when you need it. I'm notorious for leaving a flashlight wherever I am instead of putting it in a place where I can find it when I need it. And so just putting things away can really help you um, not be overwhelmed later when you come back into that space. And the other thing I do is like corral items. Like say you have your entryway, but your book and your phone and your purse need to go up to your bedroom. You know, you have a little basket or box that you can just take it up there. Like at the end of the night, I'm taking this with me. It works good for kids' toys, other people's stuff. Like just kind of corral it together so that it's not strewn all over the place. And really, I like the donate, discard, maybe it's a recycle, depending on the area, maybe it's a burn or shred, and just being very vigilant about your space. It's one of the things I have helped people with. Well, I have so much mail. All right, well, in the morning, when your coffee is brewing or your tea is steeping, just go through those three or four things and just either put them in the shred or burn them, and then your pile won't get completely out of control and you won't feel as overwhelmed about the bills. You won't have late fees potentially if you miss something, and just kind of setting up a routine for yourself that allows you to manage all the things coming in. For a while, I had so much mail and different things coming in. I was just like, holy cow, how am I going to stay on top of all these things? And just taking a moment on a regular basis to kind of sort it means you can get things paid on time. Granted, now digitally you can get a lot of things, but if someone's older or you're sharing responsibilities, like maybe you're helping your parent pay a bill or something, there and maybe they're getting paper and you're getting electronic. But even so, even in that situation, you need to make sure things are paid. And I don't know about you, but I really hate paying fees that I don't need to pay because I didn't catch something coming in my mail. Um, and just straightening regularly as you, even as you go about your day, um, wiping the counter immediately when something spills or the floor, um, picking up any pet messes, or my dog likes to dribble her kibble all over the floor. And so, either toss it back in the bowl or sweep it up right away. Um, Sometimes also it helps to really have a schedule. Like maybe you vacuum on Sunday, on Tuesday you clean the bathroom, Fridays you change the sheets, like, and there's different tools out there to help you do that. But a lot of times people need a schedule. I've heard of some various apps that can help you, but I am kind of old school on the pen paper type of thing. And so it helps me in the morning to make a list of, hey, these are the things I'm going to do today. And sometimes those things spill to the next day, but at least I'm kind of tracking what needs to happen. So I think the most key thing, though, is if you can just kind of straighten as you go, um, it can really help. And I'm just going to give a shout out to laundry baskets because they can be used for all kinds of things besides laundry. And um, that can really help you corral things as well. And um, I don't advocate storing things in them, although I have one with laundry that needs to be put away. But just looking at the tools you maybe already have, versus I need to go buy a whole new closet organizing system. Well, actually, no, you probably need to downsize what's in your closet first, and then maybe you might need some extra storage. But I think I know I do this where I want to get organized and then I have the organizing stuff, which just adds to the pile of stuff I haven't organized yet. So I think it's real important to look at what you already have that you might be able to repurpose so that you're not bringing more stuff in. Um, and then if you are getting something new to fit under a sink or something like that, measure it. Takes a tape measure or your arm or whatever you have so that you are buying something that will fit that new space and not one more thing that you have to figure out what to do with.
Yes, I love that. And I'm taking down all these little notes because again, being that I used the word recently, although it's not so recent. I've been in my new apartment now a year. Can't believe that went by so quickly. And going through that whole process of moving, where I found it easy for me that when I was in the process of moving, to not necessarily have to take everything with me to a new place, like to literally be in that space of like, do I really need this? Am I going to use this? And if not, can I get rid of it? And funny story, when I was in the process of downsizing my storefront and bringing my business into my home, I had a curio cabinet, and once upon a time had a bunch of little dust collectors, we'll call it, and decided to put the dust collectors in a bin because most of them came from my daughter when she was little. My sisters went out and would buy me Mother's Day gifts, birthday gifts, etc., and wrap them up nicely and put them in this bin that sits in a closet. Because in my mind, it's like, okay, so what am I going to do with these? They're not going back into the curio cabinet because what's in my curio cabinet now are my crystals because they now have a little home. And yet I have this bin that probably weighs about 30 pounds of little knickknacks that just sit in the bin. And as Tammy's speaking about what she's speaking about, that's in my head right now. Like, well, I have a closet full of stuff that I could probably go through the closet and get rid of it. Not even take pictures of it, because reality of it all is, do I really need pictures of these little knickknacks? No. So, Tammy, I want to just really thank you for sharing this insight, because this is insight that many people don't really share about. The insides of what clutter looks like, and then the extended version of clutter to hoarding. Because there's a difference of, we have clutter in a corner that we need to just take 5 minutes to clean it up, or has that become such a bigger issue where it's now a hoarding situation that needs to be addressed in a more sensitive matter? And this is what Tammy does. This is literally what Tammy does to help. She speaks about it to get the message out there, because we're not really talking about this as much as we need to, and the more sensitive side to the hoarding issues. So Tammy, I just really like to thank you for being bold, being courageous to come up with the being the founder of the hoarding solution. And what final words would you like to share with those watching live, and of course those in our room right now? What final words would you like to share with them?
So I think it's real important to know where you're at um, and to really be grounded in yourself and have your self-care at a point where you're giving to others from overflow. And I like the people used to say you can't pour from an empty cup. That's true. But often now it's you should be pouring from your saucer because your cup is already overflowing. And in order to do that, you've got to do a lot of your own recognition and work. And um, doing this work has helped me really understand how depleting it is if you aren't doing some things for you, including water and food. Um, so when you step in to help someone else, whether it's a family member or anyone else, you have to be ready to pour from that overflow. And often the hoarding solution is not what you first think it is. Sometimes it is about taking a step back. But I will also say, particularly in extreme hoarding, that oftentimes that person does not feel heard or valuable or worthy. And if you can be that point person that can hear what they're saying, even if you may not understand it necessarily or agree, if you can at least hear them out, can go a long way. And then possibly hearing you out or at least allowing you to talk about a resource. So really, it does fundamentally come back down to how are you doing and maintaining some level of yourself so that you can give to others without being completely depleted.
Yes. So Tammy, you have a complimentary offer and then you have a paid offer. Please share them.
I do. I have so I have a complimentary gift. It's a guide to creating the space you deserve, and I will put a link here. I don't know if I can put a PDF, but anyway, I'll put it here in the message here in a minute. And then it's called a guide to creating the space you deserve. And then I have an offer. Basically, your investment is $197, and this includes a 45-minute individual consultation. Often that is a longer conversation, but that's okay. And then I do a written summary for you. So whatever it is that you're struggling with or whatever solutions you need, we kind of co-create that, and then I'll provide that to you generally via email. Some people find it helpful to hang it on their fridge, and they can check things off as they go. Also, there's access to a private membership group, and I'm going to extend that free access through the end of March. And after that, it would be $27 a month. And basically, we're going to be meeting monthly, and there'll be lots of tips and resources and things as part of that membership as well. And I have some ebooks and different tip sheets and things like that I would be posting there, and as well as it's a place to kind of express what's going on with you and what kind of support you need, and then we will figure that out. So I'm very happy to be part of this and part of helping us collectively all live a little bit more peace more peaceful life, or in a peaceful way as much as we can given our chaos.
Yes, yes. So yes. And anyone who is interested in taking advantage of Tammy's complimentary gift or paid gift, I will have available her contact information on my website. So you can go there. You can also email me should you need her contact information as well. My email is healingwithin76@gmail.com. I'll post that wherever you need postings. And again, for those who are watching live, this would be the time that if you want to, excuse me, if you want to come in onto the Zoom room to message the different speakers so you can get that link, because there is a new link from the very first speaking event. So you can join us in the Zoom room so you can gain access to Tammi in the Q&A. The Q&A is not recorded, nor will it be live. So it's an intimate time where we come together and have a discussion about what was discussed during this conversation, and you can ask Tammy questions. So if you are interested in getting that link, just go ahead and reach out to any of the speakers to get that link. With that being said, Tammy, if you can give us a one word to walk away with for today, what word would that be?
Freedom. Freedom to be who we are, and time freedom to do what we want when we want with the people we want.
Love
I
that.
think it's
Love that. That's beautiful. So all that being said, Tammy, I want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing this, as I like to call it, sensitive yet very needed conversation, because I'm sure every one of us knows at least one person that holds on to everything and that may need a little support and a gentle way of going about it. So thank you so much for sharing the insight that you brought to the table today. For everybody who is watching on live, we are going to come off live and we're going to go into the Zoom room and have a nice friendly conversation there. We will be coming back live again at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time with the next speaker. So if you are not with us in the Zoom room, come back and join us live at that point. We'll see you in a little while.